Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to my next installment of Music Deconstructed. Before I get started with everything, I want to let you know that if you want to check out any of my music before I deconstruct it, you're free to do so at aloststateofmind.com. It's all one word. This song is called More Than Ever, and it's on the album Forever. It's got a long backstory to it. I won't go into too much detail, but it was written maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Now, I'm telling you this for a couple of reasons. One, I'm not going to be isolating my vocals in this song because while I'll freely admit that I'm not a good singer, at least not by today's standards or anybody's standards really, I've gotten a lot better. And so with this particular song, I was able to make it sound good within the song itself, but by themselves, they are shitty. So if you want to hear them again, you can check it out at my website. And by the way, all my music's free. If you want to donate, if you want to pay for my music, that's fine, but you're not obligated to do so. I won't be offended in any way. It's just nice when people get to hear my songs and give me feedback and everything. The other thing I wanna mention is whenever I'm done with the song, I usually wrap up the project in the zip file and I'll upload it to Dropbox, or I'll save it on a hard drive. And I never really go back to these songs and unpack them. And I might explain this in every video where it's required, but a lot of my music has outdated plugins. My mixing technique back then might have been a lot different. So you're going to look over on a lot of my tracks and you're going to see things where plugins are grayed out. That means either I don't use that plugin anymore, whether I didn't install it or whether I just whether the plugin itself is outdated for this version of Pro Tools. So what you will hear on the album itself might sound a lot different from what you hear on these videos. These videos, they might sound a little more raw. I try to clean them up a little bit before I do this video so you're not listening to shit quality. But again, if you hear the song and you come here and you watch these deconstruction videos, you're going to notice a little bit of a difference. But again, my purpose with this is to show you the elements that make up the music, more than showing you how to mix and master a song and all that other fun stuff. So with all that being said, I'm going to go over this song with you, and hopefully I don't bore you and you'll stick with me throughout this process. Now, this is one of the very first songs that I decided to start using a lot of different elements besides just the guitar and the bass and the drums and the vocals. Now, back in the day, even before this song, I used a lot of, techno style music, or I would just use strictly rock style. And I got into this phase where I decided to combine everything together because I realized at some point that I wasn't interested in becoming part of a band. And my writing style changed a lot. Before, I used to write with the thought process of, well, if I write this music, I'm going to be in a band. I have to make sure I write parts for everybody and those parts aren't boring. Whereas nowadays, I'm just like, I don't care anymore. It's just going to make something that sounds pleasing to the ears. Well, this is one of those songs I try to make it kind of for a band, but also I didn't really care, if that makes any sense. So we'll go ahead and get started. The way it's laid out, the way I always organize my tracks is you have your drums on the top, you have your bass, and then you have all your guitars. All my guitars are always color-coded red, and bass is brown, drums are green. These drums, just like most of my songs, aren't actually bounced down into audio, where when I usually do that, I'll separate the kick, the snare, the hi-hats, and so on and so forth. But sometimes, if the plugin sounds good in the mix, I'm using Superior Drummer with this song. I usually mix within the mixer in Superior Drummer, so no right or wrong way. It was just my preference at the time. And then if you go on down further, you'll see there's a sub bass right here. There's a death cry. I labeled it death cry, and then you have some crickets, which you'll see in a second. You have a heavy synth, and you have some effects here at the very end. So we'll start off like I always do with the guitars, and again, just like I always do, we'll break it up section by section, so I'm not going to play you all the guitar right now. So the very first part of the guitar, it's actually different from what I usually do. The very first part of the song has a guitar that doesn't ever come back in again. It's kind of more like a build up and bam, the song starts. So here is the very first part of the song. And if you notice, there's a slight change between these two guitars. Well, not two guitars, I'm sorry, these two segments of the song. The reason why is this guitar up here actually comes in. You also notice that the volume is a little bit lower in these clips compared to the beginning. I try to keep the song as level as possible without using a limiter at the very end. I try to take care of my levels before I even get to the mixing and mastering stage. It just makes it easier in the end. And so what I end up doing is let's say if the first part of the song is just two guitars, I'll make those guitars relatively louder than they would be with everything else in the mix. So right here, they're a little bit louder. When this guitar comes in, and up here you'll see the drums come in, I lower things, and then I try to, like I said in another video, the more elements you add to a song, the lower you want certain things to be. So if you have a main guitar riff, when other elements come in, you might want to tame back that main riff so everything else can kind of fit into the sonic picture, if you will. So you heard that difference, and then I'll keep going just a little bit, and you'll hear what happens to the guitars. Now, this whole song, I think, was written in a 5/4 time signature. Yep, it's written in a 5/4 time signature. I like writing in odd time signatures, although I don't go crazy with it. There are a lot of people out there that are really good with very odd time signatures. One of my friends on Facebook, Anthony Columbus, he goes to the extreme with these signatures, and it's amazing what he does. You should check him out. His band's called Wilcott. I can't even talk. Wilcott Falls, WILCOTTFALLS. So yeah, he's pretty good with what he does. I don't go crazy with it for no other reason than I just get lazy. But this seemed to need that 5/4, so I'll keep going with this time signature or with this guitar. Now, this part of the song, okay, so basically what happens, you have the intro right here, and then the rest of this is the verse, and this is where I do all my singing right here, okay? But before I get into the whole verse segment, let me back up a little bit, go back to the intro. So you have these guitars come in. Let me solo the drums so you can hear the drums and the guitars at the same time. And right there is where I would have come in with my singing. So the next thing you have at the intro is this little lead guitar that comes in. I honestly put no thought into this lead. Again, I was trying to come up with just something random and chaotic. When you listen to the song on my website and you read the lyrics, you're going to understand that the whole mindset of the song was basically, and you can interpret it however you want. It doesn't matter. But the whole mindset is this character in the song is in this really dark place, whether you interpret it as being a physical place or a mental place. The verses kind of reflect that, and of course the chorus is "I need you more than ever." And so you have this kind of back and forth where the narration is, I'm in hell, and the chorus is, I need you more than I've ever needed you before. And so that's kind of the mindset. Well, the first part of the song with this intro and this guitar, I wanted that kind of that uncomfortable chaos. So when this solo guitar comes in, well, I wouldn't call it a solo, it's kind of a lead, but you'll hear it. And that's pretty much it, okay? So you have the intro, you have that weird lead that comes in, and then you have kind of like a pre-verse before I start singing right here. Again, it's just a simple... And so what happens, again, I know I'm repetitive with my music, but I try to break things up. I try to add elements. And so while I'm singing during this part of the verse, that lead guitar comes in right in this area right here, and then it goes away, and then it comes back in, but also some new elements come into the picture right before the chorus. So let me go ahead and isolate what this guitar sounds like during the verse. Again, keep in mind that all of this right here, all of this is the same thing with the drums and the bass. I haven't gone over the bass yet. I'll go over that in just a second. Let me just show you the other elements first. So with all this being so repetitive, this lead comes in. It's the same track that the lead guitar was on at the beginning, so it's gonna sound the same, but you'll see what I'm talking about in a second. And then it does it again. All right, so I have this penned about 75 to the left, okay? Because you have the main riff right here. And you'll hear when I hit those high notes, I'm not hitting too high. When this lead guitar comes in, I want it to accentuate the main riff already. So I'm introducing a new element to the song, but it's still kind of the same thing, but it just adds a little bit more flavor to this part. It's kind of like a build up to the chorus, if you can picture that. So together, just those two guitar parts, this is what you're gonna have. Okay, and so all together, you're gonna have this. And listen out. I'm gonna start the track about right here. Listen out for that high lead guitar that comes in. Again, it's not too prominent, but it's there. All right, so that's that. Before I get into the very last part of this verse where these little noises come in here, let me back up a little bit and go to the bass, okay? I forgot to kind of show you that. It's not much different. It's still kind of the same as the verse, so it doesn't seem too exciting, but I do add a change into the song in the bass, in the verse. So listen to the first part of this right here with just the bass. Now with the guitars, or with the main guitars and the bass, you have this. All right, so I've said this before, I've talked about this in other songs before, but I'm a huge fan of having a dirty bass in a song. I honestly rarely use clean bass on anything. even in a song like this where there's not a lot of distortion going on, the bass with the distortion just it adds grittiness to my music. It adds dirtiness. It adds aggressiveness without me actually being aggressive. The fact that I can bring in an aggressive sound to a peaceful song is something I really pride myself on. That's what I kind of look for in my music. So you'll notice on every video, I have grittiness to my bass. I have distortion. It doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. It doesn't mean that everyone should do it. It just means it's something that I like to do. More so on heavy guitar tracks or guitar heavy songs, for example. But I'll even use it in clean stuff. So going back to the bass, I do make a little bit of a change up here. And you can tell because I have the bass tracks broken up now. So I'm going to play this segment right here. And you're going to see how instead of just following the guitar track, it actually changes up. And what I wanted to do, again, it was my subtle way of not making the verse monotonous. So let me just go ahead and play this. Pay attention how it changes in the second half of this right in here. So you'll notice, again, it doesn't, at this point in the second half of this, it doesn't follow the verse, but because it is the bass, it does change up the groove to the song. So if I play the guitars with the bass, it might be kind of hard to hear, and I apologize for that, but try to see if you can hear the bass, how it changes in the second half of this with the guitars. One more time. So you get the idea. Now, with everything all together, I'm going to back up. I'm going to play the bass, the guitars, everything. I'm not going to play this segment yet, this little segment where you have the extra ambient noises, but I'll get to that. So let me just start here. I'll play up until the first high guitar comes in. Sorry about that. I forgot to solo that extra guitar, but I think you guys get the idea. So let's move on down to this part with the crickets. You'll see why I call them crickets in a second. There's a funny story about these little guys. An ex-girlfriend of mine was listening to the song in her car, and she swore to me that she was having car troubles until it turned out that this song and these crickets playing made her think that her car had issues. Oh, man. Fun times. So here we go. So this is going to be the last part of the verse, and I do it in both verses. Again, it's kind of a way to symbol that the chorus is about to come. So with the crickets, you have in this little section right here, I'm going to go up a little bit. In this section right here, you have this noise. That is it. And then, of course, you have your heavy synth that goes underneath that. And it doesn't come in right away. It kind of builds up to it. So you can see where I did some volume automation where it starts off with nothing and it builds up to a certain level. So let's play that. And then it just stops right there. And so together you have the crickets and that noise. And that's it. And now all together, this is the last part of the verse. I'm going to start a little bit before the crickets. In fact, I'm also going to make everything a little small, a little smaller so you can see it right here. So again, you have your drums, your bass, that high guitar that comes in, your main rhythm guitars, and the cricket and that heavy synth. So here we go. The other cool thing that I did is I added a little stutter effect, right? Let's see if I can find that. I know I put that somewhere. Maybe it's a guitar. I don't know. Oh, I know where it's at. Let me find this right here. Okay, so what I did with the guitar, with this rhythm, is right before the... Okay, so I did the crickets, I did the heavy synth, but this little section right before the chorus, I wanted to add some kind of glitch effect. So if you hear the guitar, it does this. This is just the guitar by itself. And so what happens, let me play that again in case you missed that. So what happens is all together you have... So it's very subtle, but it's, you know, it's one of those things that if you listen to the song long enough, you'll catch it. So that is the intro, and that is the main verse. There's not much to it, but like I've said before in other videos, you don't need to have 60 tracks to accomplish something. You can use just a little bit to make a lot happen. Now, to kind of skip ahead before I get to the chorus, the second verse is exactly like the first verse. It's the same exact thing, you know, except for my lyrics in the song are different. If you listen to the song, you'll hear what I'm talking about. This isn't a long song. It's relatively short. So again, I didn't do a lot. And this also goes back to me when I first started writing music. I didn't add a lot to it. I tend to add more to my music nowadays. It's not that I need to. It's just something I do because it's fun. So we're going to go to the chorus, and I'm going to play... we're going to kind of break it down again, you know, with the drums and the bass and everything. So with the drums, you have the end of the verse right here that leads into the chorus. This is there's a fill right before the chorus drums. I don't think they're that much different, but I'm going to play it, and you're going to hear the fill, which is right here. And then it's going to lead into the chorus. So here we go. So you get the idea. Yeah, I say that a lot. I'm sorry, but you with the drums in this song, and I do this with a lot of songs actually. I tend to, you know, if I have if I have a song that has a different time signature from 4/4, or if I have a song where the drums during the verses are kind of simplistic, I'll still keep everything simplistic. Towards the chorus. I also keep the time signature the same, but what I tend to do is I'll tend to add a steady 4/4 rhythmic kick drum, just to kind of pick up the song a little bit, to add a little bit more energy, but again, it's subtle. So those are the drums. This is the bass for the chorus. I'm going to start again a little bit before the chorus. So as you can tell, it's also almost like the verse, but it still matches the chorus. So it's not just the bum 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 bum. It does a little bit of a change. I love writing the bass. I love making my bass sound crazy. I feel like I'm a bassist at heart, but I also understand the need for a bass to anchor the music. So with this particular song, the bass didn't do much in by the way of The bass didn't do much by way of changing, okay? But where the bass lacks in change, the guitars make up for it. So here is the clean guitar during the chorus. And then for the other guitar, it's the same. They're the same chords, but I think I ring them out more, and it's a little dirtier sounding. So here we go. And together, the two guitars sound like this. All right, and I won't bore you with the rest. Like I always say, you get the idea. With the bass, when the bass comes in, again, it's not much different, but it anchors the song. Now with the drums. Actually, let me start just a little bit before so you can kind of see how it blends into the chorus. All right. So the last part of this in the chorus, when I was writing this, I needed something to stand out. I needed the chorus to not, generally with choruses, there are two techniques. One is the standard, it's a standard way that almost everyone does it. You'll have a verse that has a good hook, and it's generally more tame than the chorus. The chorus is where everything kind of gets excited, everything kind of explodes, and the verses are generally where things kind of tame. There's a song by Metallica, Unforgiven, on the Black Album. That song does a reverse where the verse is more heavy than the chorus. So I can't remember off the top of my head any song that I've done, the heavy verse and the soft chorus. I think there is one, but I can't remember. But I needed this song to build up. So I did two things. The first thing I did, in a way of complementing the drums, I added this sub bass. It's got a clickiness to it, but it has a little bit of a sub too. And you're not going to really pick this up in your speakers unless you have a subwoofer, and even then it might not be too much. It was a very subtle thing I wanted to add to the mix. You can kind of hear it in the song, but it was just something to throw in there. So check this out. And that's all that is. And so when you add that to the drums, you might not hear that as much with the drums, but again, what I was trying to go for was something to complement the drums to keep that rhythm going for the chorus. Now, this next part, it's going to sound really annoying, but to me, it makes sense within the mix. So by itself, and I call this Death Cry. I got this, I think, from, yeah, over my notes here, I got it from a program called Reactor by Native Instruments. I can't remember if it's a stock setting that I found or if I created this by using Reactor, but either way, that's where I got it from. So here is just the Death Cry, like I like to call it, right here. And again, bear with me, it's going to sound annoying probably, but you'll hear it within the mix and it might sound a lot better. Now this was also a time where I started to realize that I liked using drone notes and drone sounds in my music. It's hard to explain in one video, but I started to realize that having a drone note alongside, a scale or a melody or a chord progression can actually alter the scale, melody, or chord progression depending on what note that you're using. So you might play the major scale, but if you add like a certain note to it, a drone note, it might change how the major scale sounds to you. I know Tool does this a lot. This band Cloud Kicker that I adore, Ben Sharp, is amazing. He uses, I've talked about this before, the EBow to create drone notes to kind of enhance the ambience of the song. So that's kind of what I did with this. I also added a little bit of a reverb in this. It's not, it shows that it's a lot right here, but the reverb is actually kind of tame in the song. So yeah, there's not much going on with that. So because again, I didn't want it to sound too far out there. I wanted it to be in the mix, but not too far. So here we go with the entire chorus, including this Death Cry note. I'm gonna start a little bit before the chorus, and you're gonna hear everything, and I'm gonna tighten everything up here so you can see the whole mix. And I'm gonna start right here, and I'm gonna go all the way through the end of the chorus. And you can kind of see how that Death Cry kind of trailed off into the beginning of the second verse. It's very important to figure out a way to transition your verses from verse to chorus and then from chorus back into verse. I have found that I can pretty much take any combination of sounds and make them fit together as long as there's a good transition. I think that's where a lot of songwriters have the problem. They have an issue, and I do too, every once in a while, going through this problem of going, hey, I have this cool verse. How do I make this how do I transition to a chorus? And most of the time, I'll have a good chorus. I don't know how to make them go, from point A to point B. So sometimes I'll find ways of either, doing like a stutter edit right before the chorus to symbolize that the chorus is coming. Sometimes all it takes is putting a good drum fill before the chorus to make it really, to kind of set up the chorus. Having a setup into a chorus helps. It doesn't always solve the problem. And what I mean by that is having a drum fill or some kind of a signal that, hey, the chorus is about to come, because it gets the listener ready for what's about to happen. But there are times when a chorus and a verse do not go together at all. And so what you might have to do is do like a pre-chorus, and you find like that middle ground between the two. And so it takes a while to get used to, but you know, it's just it's one of the things that I've done to kind of help me out. So, like for example, here I have a good fill going into the chorus. I have that little stutter edit that's barely audible, but it's there. And then when I go back into the verse, that death cry kind of lingers on for a minute, so it overlaps. There's a lot of overlapping going on. Okay. And I won't bore you with playing all this again. You can rewind it if you'd like and listen to that. So that's pretty much it. You have the intro, the verse, this chorus. It goes into the next verse, back into the chorus. But this is where things kind of change. This sub bass that you already listened to, this is the end of the song right here, okay? So you already listen, let's say this is the second verse, which it is. The drums stop, so after the end of the second chorus, let me unsolo that. All right, and that's all it does. This, it'll pick up, and I'll play all this for you in a second. But we'll start with the guitars. Once this this ends, or the chorus ends rather, it basically does the same thing that extra guitar in the verses did. Okay, so for example, you have the extra guitar right here that go in both verses. But what I did is I have them here now, and they're both panned. They're not panned hard left and hard right, though. The reason why is because I have some ambient noise that comes in that's panned hard left and hard right. So here are just the guitars. And what also happens is the bass comes in, and it does the same thing. So you have you also have the sub bass, which is that clicky sounding sub bass. And the last thing you have at the very end of the chorus is this basic buzz sound that I added. It's essentially a sine wave. And that's it. So before I get into this ambient noise right here, I'll get into that towards the very end. You have this buzz noise, this sub bass click, these two guitars, and the bass. And I'll play a little bit of the very first part of the end of this, and then I'll play it where the drums kick in. So here's how the chorus ends into the fade out. Actually, I'll just keep playing it. The drums are coming in right here. Now, I actually played it with everything, including the effects. So let me back up. You pretty much heard how this ends. The song does fade out at this point, but the effects I added, I honestly can't tell you where I got this from because I don't remember, but this is the effect by itself. And it's coming in. You can see the little fade up. And so, now that I played that by itself, again, it does this little fade out. I'll start a little bit towards where the drums kick in again. You're going to hear the fade out. So as you can tell, the song itself fades out, whereas the ambient noise is still in, and that eventually fades out. So you have this thing where after the chorus ends, the song's still playing, but as the ambient noise is rising up, the song is fading away. It's something I do quite a bit actually at the end of songs. So it's kind of like there's always been this underlying thing happening in the song. But that's pretty much it. There's not much to this. It's a very simple song, but it actually did take me a long time to write and a long time to publish it. You have your drums, your bass, your extra high guitars right here. You have your sort of lead distortion, like slight distortion guitars that play during the chorus. And then you have your clean guitars that play right here, and they change up a little bit. You know, you have your intro, your verses, and you have your choruses, and they change a little bit. The reason they're all on the same track is because it's the same guitar. It was recorded the same day, so I just use the same effect. And then you have your sub click, you have your screaming, your death cry rather, your crickets, and then your heavy synth, your sine wave down here, and then your ambient outro. If you guys see my sub mix and aux channel video, you can tell with this song I didn't do a lot of sub grouping. Like the guitars aren't going to a sub mix, and the bass and the drums, they're all pretty much just going straight into the main sub mix. This is a classic example of not everything always has to be done a certain way. So just because I might suggest that routing each group of instruments into a submix and then routing those submixes into a main submix doesn't mean you always have to do that. Doesn't mean it's always even the best way. In the case of this song, I just wrote it and recorded it and mixed it so long ago that at the time I don't think I either didn't care about doing that because there wasn't a lot going on to begin with, or I just didn't know that I could do that at the time. But that is this song. Again, I hope you listened to it before this, and if you haven't, I hope you listen to it after to kind of see, hear the difference rather, and then you can also hopefully pick out parts of the song a lot better. And just to say it again, my website is aloststateofmind.com. I have 6 or 7 albums. I still haven't checked, but I have like 6 or 7 albums on there. If you have any songs you'd like me to break down, go ahead and ask me, and I'll pull out the file, open it up, and deconstruct it. And maybe if my singing's good on those songs, I'll go ahead and let you hear my voice by itself. Also, if you have any questions about just mixing in general, go ahead and ask me. If it's a simple question I can answer, I'll respond back to you. If it's not, I'll just go ahead and make a video out of it. And you can also check me out on Facebook. It's also A Lost State of Mind. I don't know if I want to make a Twitter. We'll see how this channel grows. We'll see the feedback I get. But other than that, I hope you guys have a good day or good night, and keep on mixing. Thanks for watching.